American Dreamers podcast, episode 2. Like I said last time, I thought, it'd be fun just to get in and read some of my journals and try and remember what was going on in my mind when we were out on the road. So that's what I'll do today. I'm going to just read the first section. When we left our home for the first time, we headed to the U.S.-Mexico border. That was something that was definitely in the news a lot at that time. For me, one of the more important things for our kids to experience, just to get out and see the U.S.-Mexico border. It's a topic that comes up seemingly in every election cycle as far as I can remember. And I thought that would be a good thing to give the children some more perspective on, and not only them, but myself and Scarlett. We're no experts on that, and I'm not here to say how important or unimportant securing our border and marking travel through it. Just wanted to experience it, gain perspective as a family, and have a little bit more knowledge. And so that's where we decided to go first. I think going into Mexico was pretty enlightening for the kids. You hear so much about it, or you see things, or there's kids that come here that they interact with on a daily basis, and if they have never gone somewhere or been an outsider or been the foreigner, getting to see how you're treated in that instance, I feel like gives you a lot of perspective after having gone through something like that, of how you would treat new people coming to where you live. And that was a goal, and that was definitely something that I wanted to share with them. And I had heard a story on NPR about a place called Friendship Park, and I'll talk more about it when we get into reading, but that seemed like a great way to start, and a great, kind of high impact, low stress way to get started on the trip. Getting out of our lives, trying to break through a wall, baggage, both physical and emotional, how to compartmentalize and box everything up, forced to face our fears on the road. In the van, it's like a magnifying glass. No personal space, nowhere to retreat from each other's idiosyncrasies. We have moved into one small room, together, day and night, brushing one's teeth, getting dressed, trying to contemplate the day's hopes and goals, all the while being just inches from one another. In the morning, you stay quiet, trying not to wake anyone, hoping to find just a few precious moments to collect yourself in solitude. I can only imagine the amount of growth, love, and trust this year will bring our family. Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, when you start something like this, you have no idea what you're in for, but I guess that's the goal, right? San Diego and Tijuana. Getting used to boondocking, we spend our time reorganizing the van. Stuff spread all around the parking lot in Mission Bay. No amount of pre-planning could have prepared us. Our things are like little puzzle pieces needing to fit correctly back into our van. Less is more truly applies. First on our list of important places, Friendship Park, a small park that sits between the U.S. and Mexico border fences, where families and friends separated by the wall can come together and talk face to face. I guess one thing too that's neat to talk about, if that doesn't make sense, the park, at that point, there's 2 border fences, and there's about an area, I don't know, probably 50 to 100 yards that sits in between them, and usually the Border Patrol is kind of racing back and forth between there looking for people trying to cross. But at that spot at Friendship Park, which now I believe has been closed, I don't know if it's permanent or not, but at that time there was that park, and my memory is a little fuzzy, but I think it was one day a week they would open up and allow people to come into that middle ground area and sit and talk. Families who are separated by that wall and can't travel easily back and forth across to visit their relatives. So that was a pretty cool place, and obviously why it was important for us to visit. We drive south from San Diego along the vast maze of tiny roads of the Tijuana River Valley. Not much to see in either direction other than native chaparral and a small animal rescue. There's a simple beauty to life along the river that we shun to distance ourselves from our neighbors to the south. It's late afternoon when we finally arrive at the end of the road near Borderfield State Park. It's a small parking lot with a trailhead that leads a few miles down a flat dirt road. We see almost no one, except the occasional border agent racing by on their ATV. This leads me to believe that we must not be completely alone. Walking in this area for the first time is both stimulating and uneasy. We four alone in this seemingly abandoned part of the state at dusk. This is the first time our kids see the border wall. They race back and forth on their bikes in the shadow of the wall with darkness setting in. I decide to head back to the comfort of the drive-in movie theater. Actually, it's probably neat to talk about that. Yeah, I mean, it was getting dark and we were just walking around the border, and as a parent or a husband, it feels kind of weird. There's no one around there, and it was getting dark, and it was obvious that Borderfield State Park was a very rarely visited national monument. So we got down to where we could see the border fence, and obviously it wasn't going to be open for that day because every ranger station and thing we passed was just kind of dilapidated and run down. So being nighttime, being our first night in the van, we decided to head back. There was a drive-in we saw a while back, and I was just like, you know what, that's safe. Let's go there. Let's eat, and we'll go into Mexico the next day when it's daylight, and we'll try and check out Borderfield State Park from there. That was the thought process. I decided to head back to the comfort of a drive-in movie theater we had passed a few miles back in San Ysidro. It seems like a safe place to retreat while I ponder our options for sleeping tonight. The familiarity of the drive-in is comforting, and as the movie ends, it's late, and I am tasked with finding a safe place to park our van for the night. Being our first night sleeping in the van, we drive and drive, looking for a place to go unnoticed. This seems to go on for hours. Once finally asleep, after listening to every sound, real and imaginary, outside of the van, I'm woken to a sudden banging on the window. "You can't sleep here," says a voice from outside the van. We get up, get the kids awake, buckled in their seats, break the van down, and move on. Yeah, so that first night was a little bit intense. We didn't know what to do. We had never slept in the van, in a non-campground or non-nature setting, just trying to find a park to sleep in, southern San Diego, almost to the Mexican border. That definitely, for that first night on the road, was a bit of a challenge. It's morning, and we have made it through our first night. A little tired from the broken sleep, we decide to walk into Mexico. Walking into Mexico for the first time, you see border life a bit more intimately. Both U.S. and Mexican citizens passing one another in opposite directions, armed with goods they deem necessary from across the border, things that one can only get on the other side of the wall. Upon exiting the border, you can't help but notice how Tijuana comes right up to it. Crowds of people, bustling streets, sounds, street vendors everywhere selling their wares, the polar opposite of the vast no-man land which fills the distance between Mexico and San Diego. We head southwest towards Playa Tijuana to visit the opposite side of the wall from what we had experienced the previous night. Once there, I am again amazed at the vibrance of Mexican life and how it comes right up to the border fence. Music, drinks, family, and friends, enjoying the day and each other out in the open. A few peer through in wonder at the vacant beach on the other side of the wall. There's nothing as far as the eye can see. Back in Tijuana, we walk, shop, visit the symphony, and eat at an outdoor food truck court that's as trendy as anything I can imagine back home in Los Angeles. So yeah, that really was our first day and our first experience. I didn't drive the van into Mexico. I was still a little uneasy at that point because we had all of our valuables, everything in that van, and my comfort level at that point, honestly, was that of someone who hadn't done that. So I was a little cautious and whatnot, and that's part of the reason we decided to walk in, and it just felt like a good first step, park the van, and there's big parking lots all down around San Diego for people who just go across and buy different things or get medical or dental treatments in Mexico. So that's what we did, and it was a pretty good and pretty unique experience, and it was the first time that our kids had ever crossed the border, and you know, they had a lot of fun. We swam, we played in the beach, they bought candy, we had great food. And one of my assistants who lived in San Diego at that time had often gone down to Tijuana, and he was the one that told us about the symphony, about the food truck courts, and it was awesome. It was truly amazing, and it was a great first day. And I think we left that, you know, feeling much braver and much more excited and less timid about what this year's experiences were going to bring us.